So, hi Tobias, how are you?
Hi, Adam. I'm fine.
So, what interests me? What was your first Hello World? Which language was it?
Oh, that's embarrassing. It was Visual Basic, actually.
Which year?
Oh, let me guess. Was
1945?
no, I think it was the year 2000.
2000? Oh, not bad. And then?
Then I stayed with Visual Basic for a while.
Mhm.
My friends also got into programming, and a couple of guys used Delphi, Turbo Pascal. And then actually, I pretty quickly transversed to Java. I
How
had
how
this,
it happened?
yeah. So my father's also in IT,
Mhm.
and he had these two huge books. It was a book about Java and a cookbook about Java with examples in it. And we had this long vacation in Spain.
Mhm.
And at the time, I wasn't really interested in sports or anything. I was like 15 or 14. And I took the books to the beach and I started reading, and I really found it interesting. And it was my first experience with object oriented programming because Visual Basic wasn't that strict in OOP like Java. And I just read the books. And when I got home, I got to the computer and tried out a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
cool.
before laptops were available for kids like me.
So, how old were you with the with Visual Basic? So you were 15 with Java, and when you
um,
Mhm.
yeah, I guess like 13.
Okay,
So yeah,
and why you did it?
just out of curiosity. So there was always a computer in my home from 386 to Pentium 1. And I used to play little games with my brother together.
Mhm.
But then I got curious how these things work. And we just started building our applications. And the first applications were just pretty simple UIs in Visual Basic. You could compose UIs, and we had a contest running who could do the best text editor or to-do application. And there was no logic or database behind, but it was just playing around with it. And later I wanted to discover how do I do database, networking, etc. Yeah.
To-do application is still a big deal on Mac. So,
Yeah.
so big business, right, back then with to-dos and Visual Basic.
Right. Maybe I should start one.
Exactly. So, with Java in the year, you said around 2000, right? It was Java. Which version was it?
Oh, I can't remember. I think it maybe was 1.3.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
something like
was.
that.
Yes.
Mm.
And you liked that, or was it a strange experience, or what's? So you came back from the vacations. You booted your computer and then start hacking, right?
Right. I really like that because the book was written quite well, and it's a shame I can't remember the title. But they had this example of explaining object-oriented programming paradigms with making hamburgers. And this instantly clicked for me because seeing everything as an object and in relation to each other, that was just how I thought. And I was thinking, hey, Java is my thing,
Mhm.
and I can do that. And that's how I got in there.
Okay, it's interesting which book it was. I don't think it was Java in a nutshell.
No,
Thinking in Java also now.
no, it wasn't. It was like 600 pages. And if
So
core Java, can that be core
core
Java?
Java, yeah, there was from Sun Microsystems one.
Yeah, that can be. Yeah, that could be it.
Okay, cool. And
Really long ago.
then you wrote Hello World in Java, and what happened then?
Yeah, and then I did some PHP actually, because web applications were huge, and Java didn't have a good answer on that. So I started developing blogs and forums and a content management system and fun stuff like this.
But why?
But
For whom, or just for fun, or?
yeah, just for fun initially. So we always had these little projects, like doing a blog together, and this was before WordPress, right? So we started building our application, and later I earned a little bit of money selling websites to driving schools. And for this, I also wanted to do it with content management systems, so I wouldn't have to do all the coding later on when they wanted to change what kind of cars do we have, when are our vacation sessions. So I could just easily edit some of the parameters in a admin UI, and then the website would be updated.
Oh, interesting. So I did something like this, but with Java. So I have no experience with PHP. But one of my first project was also CMS, but with servlets.
Yeah. The funny thing is I never touched PHP since.
Okay. Okay. What's funny is from time to time I get PHP developers on the AirHacks workshops in Munich, and they really like Java EE, which really stunned me. I had never the case where a PHP developer says like Java is too complicated. They really like it, and they like actually trivial things like. They are delighted by connection pools, for instance, like this, right? When they show them connection pool is like black magic or something like this. So this is like they are easy to impress, I would say.
Yeah, and also EJB. So the concept that you have a managed entity or managed bean is really something you don't have in PHP, I guess. And yeah.
Yeah, but EJB sound to Java developer complicated. But if I show to PHP developers, they are really delighted. So this is actually interesting experience. Okay, so you did the driving school thing, mm-hmm. And when you stopped with PHP, was it like something happened to you, or what? Why you stopped?
No, then came the time that I did my Abitur in Germany, so I guess A levels in UK. And I really got a little bit off programming because I had to concentrate on math and English,
Okay.
And then I joined university, and I got into programming again because first I studied IT security in Bochum, mm-hmm. and we did a lot of cryptography. And it was always fun to implement the algorithms that we discussed in university on my computer. This helped me to understand what's going on, mm-hmm. Although this is pretty low-level stuff. And then later we had Java and databases, etc. So
you actually did it? Yeah. So you implemented the algorithms with Java?
Yeah, not with Java at the time. I think it was C first.
Okay.
So we implemented the DES algorithm in C. And then also things like hashing, mm-hmm. Because you really had to understand on a low level how these algorithms work, mm-hmm. To pass the exams.
Okay.
Yeah, but after a year, I got fed up with the university I was because the study program was just crazy, and I didn't belong there. So I guess I need something else, and I looked for alternative courses. And I found a program offered by IBM, which was a dual study program. Mm-hmm. And there you could do your bachelor's degree, but also do internships in 3 months' time. So it was always changing. It was theory and then practice. And in IBM, I started developing Java applications as well. And this got me really into enterprise Java, because until then it was mostly SE.
Mm-hmm. And was it the enterprise Java, like with 50 layers and 80 patterns, or like the pragmatic enterprise Java?
No, it was really, really dogmatic.
Okay.
Back then, we had a lot of interfaces, and there was the enterprise service bus, and you had the large WebSphere application server ND clusters, which weren't wrong at the time, but I think we wrote unnecessarily complex code back then, always thinking, okay, we could exchange this module for something else later, mm-hmm. Which never happened, right?
Yeah. But you still like that, or you were shocked?
At first I found it appealing because I came from university and we did UML modeling, and I thought, oh, this is so dynamic and well thought through, and hey, if we want to reuse something, it's really well encapsulated. But if you look at the code, I always found this is too much code for such a simple thing. And yeah, now this shifted to a more pragmatic approach. And as I'm nowadays also responsible for progress in my team, I like if developers concentrate on the business logic and don't do too much of the interface stuff.
Yeah, the progress, you mean productivity, right? So time to market. Yeah. Okay, very good. So what I found is during the interview, actually, so I interviewed you already on my blog, that you spent some time with DB2.
Yeah.
And you really like that. So what interests me, so I always use DB2 somehow because DB2 runs on ES400 and ZOS, and many of my clients are running DB2. Mm-hmm. And they really like that. So what is one of the killer features? Or if you would like to sell DB2 to Java programmers, what you will do, or why we should care about DB2?
Well, it's not so much in the interface to Java EE. Mm-hmm. So maybe where does my enthusiasm for DB2 come from? I had the opportunity to do an internship in the Ormeden Research Lab, which is an IBM lab in San Jose. Mm-hmm. So it's right in the Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. And it's settled in a beautiful landscape. And Ormeden is really focused on big data analytics. Mm-hmm. And it's this exact lab where the system R came from. So this was the first relational database. And the lab really gathers the smartest people in database optimization. And I was there for 4 months, figuring out a way on how to efficiently read data from a DB2 cluster into a Hadoop distributed analytics cluster environment. And my mentor back then, this was Dave Simon. He was the lead architect for the DB2 optimizer. And he told me stories about what's going on under the covers of DB2 that I found really exciting, right? It can optimize your queries on the go during execution to find the best strategy for the quickest results. And there's so much thought in this product that I thought, hey, this is incredible, and I really like it. Yeah, but I can also understand if developers go for easier products like MySQL, or they use NoSQL databases if it makes sense for their business case, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like somehow DB2. I don't know why, because of the branding. So I was never against DB2. Mm-hmm. I was a little bit against MySQL because at the beginning there were some trouble with transactions or whatever, but DB2 just worked. But I also heard stories from the host developers how great it is. So I was just curious to know why. So you like DB2 because of efficiency and speed, right?
Yeah, and I appreciate the thought that is going on into the product. It seems quite old, but it really isn't. Under the cover, there's so much going on, so much innovation with each release, and I really appreciate what these guys are doing there. Mm-hmm.
What I found by accident, which is really interesting, so we used in one project where DB2 was also used DerbyDB, mm-hmm. and I worked with a female developer, and she was just perfect with DB2. So she was like the optimizer, so real-time optimizer with DB2. And mm-hmm. She had a great experience with ES400 and host, and DB2 on host. And then we did something with Derby and Java, on what she found out that it is very compatible with DB2, and DerbyDB even supports some optimizer hints. So I didn't know that. So it was like the DerbyDB shares some, at least the syntax is very similar to DB2 at the host.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of optimization going into the JDBC driver for Java. Mm-hmm. That tells DB2 something about the context of which the application is running in. And it opens the opportunity for DB2 to execute more efficiently and quicker. And yeah, that's also a nice story.
Yeah, cool. So then, after your vacations in California... by the way, how Silicon Valley is Silicon? Is it like, high-tech everywhere? What was your impression?
My impression was that people there tend to be really highly educated and quite smart. And they also have a culture which is not too different from European culture, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And I really liked it there. The weather is great. The climate is great. Yeah, and there's this culture of startups, right? So there's everything going on, especially in the Silicon Valley or in the in San Francisco, and it's just a great place to be for a young engineer, I guess.
Cool. So why you came back? Because of a girl? Or what was?
No, it was the food, really.
Okay, okay. But you could, buy some power bars and it's enough, right? So.
No, honestly, if I had an offer at the time, I think I would have stayed for a year or 2 or 5. But I had to continue with my studies.
Okay. Oh, I see.
And that was the deal. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So, and then after your study, what happened then?
Yeah, I pretty much stayed with IBM ever since. So this is my 11th year with IBM.
Oh.
And I had different roles within the company. I started as a technology consultant and helped industry clients to adopt new technologies and to make their application infrastructures cleaner or more modern, and to adopt new business capabilities as well, right? So this was Smarter Planet, e-commerce, on-demand, and customers are changing. They want their products everywhere, 24/7, the way they want them, and a lot of industries are not prepared for that. And there's a lot going on to do digitalization, and I was working in this area, and then
with Java.
Yes, with Java, but very indirectly. So I was involved with the WebSphere stack to do business process management. So there's WebSphere process server, which is Java. There's the business monitor, also Java. And but later I got more into the architecture side. So I always wanted to build my own solutions, right? This was more like consulting and taking a product off the shelf. But as I had a background in applied computer science, I always thought, hey, I want to build my own things and realize my own ideas. And then I got more and more into architecture and software development. Eventually also did my architecture certification. And
at Sun or at IBM?
No, at IBM. We have the architect profession. And I did the certification there. So, and then for the last 5-6 years, I guess, I'm really doing what I love. So I have a small team, a very efficient and great team in IBM that is developing industry solutions tailored for our clients. So this is really product development. But not taking something off the shelf, but mostly starting on a greenfield. And we try to build an application that helps our clients to do certain business processes, and we do it just like we want to do it. And that's a great part.
Perfect. And I think then we met, right? So we know each other for at least, I would say, 2-3 years or something?
Yep. Right. I visited your AirHacks workshop because I got curious.
When was it? When was it? You know that? Was it 3 years ago or 4 years ago?
I think 3 years ago, but
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, and I saw your YouTube videos initially. I thought, hey, this is cool stuff. And then I found out that you do the workshops, and I asked my boss, hey, can I go to Munich? I would like to see Adam in action and talk with him and exchange best practices. And he said, yeah, sure, go.
I remember that because the very first time we already had talks about architecture and design, and you had at the beginning a different mindset a little bit, and then we aligned. I think
right.
The more you attended, the more compatible we became. And then I know this was 3-4 years ago. Okay, and then you already used OpenLiberty and Java, right?
Yeah, I think at the time OpenLiberty was not released yet. So we were using WebSphere Liberty, which is basically the same, right? It's a commercial version. And we tried to adopt the microservice pattern back then because that was really appealing, and it also helped our business problem. But yeah, you are right. I came from the background of doing large monolithic applications on WebSphere clusters, and you have a different mindset there, right? And this changed into the more modern or bite-sized paradigm. And I really don't like to talk about microservices. I like the word right-sized service because I think sometimes services have to be larger to avoid problem.
Actually,
and sometimes it's useful to cut.
Yeah, from my perspective, the whole microservice stuff is just stupid because if you focus on business, you will create a service. And a small team will maintain that. And then if the application grows, you get more services. And you can call them microservices or just, reasonable software development practice.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, perfect. And you started 3 years ago with the IoT project. And what is actually the name? So I interviewed on my blog, but what is the name of the project? Can you mention that?
Yeah, the name of the project is IBM Elderly Care. And again, it's a B2B product, so most people will never experience the product by this name. But we develop the product for our clients, and they market it. And it gets different names then. But the idea is, I know this has nothing to do with Java initially, how can we employ modern technology like smart home devices, IoT sensors, to help elderly people to stay safe in their own homes longer? Because we realize that our society is aging. We have more and more people who grow old, and we have less capabilities to actually care for them the way we should. And IBM not being a care provider, but a technology provider, we thought, hey, what can we do in this space? And we have all this new technology with IoT, cognitive analytics, and maybe we can try to detect dangerous situations in a smart home that the elderly person is living in. And then we can try to engage with the elderly person to resolve the situation. And if they are not able, we can also provide professional assistance by a care provider or by the family network.
Yeah, and this is actually a great idea because it's so human. I think this is way better, to send the elderly people to senior homes, and if they stay at home in their own flat, this is just great. So with technology, and by the way, the aging thing even happens to me. At the beginning, I was one of the youngest architects, so I was around 20, and everyone, hey, you are 20 and you are already Java architect. And now I'm a little bit older, and sometimes happen that I'm the oldest in the room. So this is actually a strange feeling. So I will have to look, very carefully at your technology. It can be very interesting for me soon.
Yeah, I think you will play around with it a lot and not use it like it is intended.
So you have the sensors at home, and the sensors send data, and the data has to be gathered somewhere. And the whole thing is built with Java 7, right?
Yep. And we're trying to adopt EE 8 and MicroProfile at the moment as well. But as of now, it's EE 7 correctly.
Which is not a big deal because for me, Java 8 is a little bit better than Java 7, but Java 6 was already perfect for me. So there's, with Java 8, you can be a little bit more efficient, but it's not like huge deal.
Right. And of course, we also use some off-the-shelf products. So the idea is that the devices in the home send their data in a real-time stream. So they are really streaming when the events happen. And an event could be a motion detected, or we detected a window was opened. And all those sensors send their data to the IBM cloud. And we have one product which is called Watson IoT platform. And this is really a MQTT broker. So
it's the Watson you mentioned.
Yeah, it's part of the Watson portfolio, Watson IoT platform, and it's for telemetry data. So you can you can have large-scale connections of IoT devices on the platform. You can receive data. You can do rules on it. And you can also manage your devices. So security is obviously a great concern. And Watson IoT platform helps us to do a secure connection to the IoT devices out in the field.
I have one question. So your devices are streaming the data to the IBM cloud. Do you have a kind of cache broker or proxy at home? So if the connection is not available, that something is cached, or what happens if the internet breaks for a moment?
Yeah, we do. So there are multiple features that we have there. In each home, there is a home hub or a base station, however you want to call it. And it acts as a gateway for all the individual sensors, because you can imagine a little motion sensor that is battery operated will not have a SIM card in there and network. It will just send out per Bluetooth or different protocols to the base station, and the base station will forward the data. And the base station also has user features. So if we detect a water leak or a fire, we quickly want to establish a voice call with the call center so the resident gets help.
Cool.
And the base station also has a battery in it, so it can survive energy outages for a couple of hours or days. And it also buffers the data that is coming. And then we also have a little bit of security on the protocol level. So MQTT has this notion of quality of service. And there's quality of service class 2, which means that each message, this is really a PubSub model, asynchronous communication, each message gets delivered exactly once, but it has to be delivered. So there's a lot of handshaking going on so that we ensure that we don't miss any important events from the home.
And the Home Hub, is it written in Java, or it can be programmed in Java?
No, these are devices that come from our business partners, and I actually don't know, but maybe there is a Java version as well.
No, I just was curious whether it was already part of your project or not. So the Home Hub communicates with the clouds, and in the cloud there is now Java. Right.
So first the data gets to Watson IoT platform. This is our message bus in simplified terms. And then behind there is a Java application that consists of different services. And we read data from the bus there and distribute it through the analytics engines that we have. And we also, of course, have to do a lot of more simple stuff like who is this apartment, who's the client, what sensors are in there, what metadata do we know about the apartment, and then all the integration parts. So if we detect an incident through the analytics engines, we need to distribute it to the right recipient. And this could be the family network, and we have an app for them. Or it could also be the professional service provider who's operating a call center. And they have an API where we can deliver incidents as well.
So now the important question, where Java E7 starts in this picture?
Java E7 starts just behind the message bus to our Watson IoT platform. And it ends when we deliver our incident or alert to the app or to the call center. By the way, the call center is also using Java.
Okay, very good. You built also the call center, or?
No, this is again, these are systems from our client or partners, and they have mostly proprietary software that they use for a long time because they are not specifically there for our elderly care solution, but they also do other services, and they have systems in place.
Okay. So now the question, how the Java E communicates with Watson? Is it a straight JMS, or what they are doing there?
So there is a library that the Watson IoT platform provides. And I haven't looked into the source of this library, but I think, no, actually, I'm not sure. I don't want to tell anything.
No problem.
But
how you interact with the library?
So you basically get a message object, and then we distribute that with CDI events first, within the listener application. And afterwards, we have a message bus that is connecting the processing pipeline, and that's JMS. And we also have REST services, of course, for inter-service communication as well.
Is which GMS product? So you know the server. What's the name of the server?
Yeah, that's MQ. So again, IBM technology.
Okay. No problem. But you set up the MQ in cluster, or was it already there? So you are using MQ as a service, or what is the story here?
You can use it on the cloud. So on IBM Cloud, you can just provision your own IBM MQ service, and you get your topics or queues there. Yeah. So we can concentrate more on the application development and less on the infrastructure management, right?
So now I suppose that the Watson library is fault that your war is 5 MB big, right?
Yes, this and and the single sign-on, the OAuth and OpenID Connect libraries that we need for a product that you also know very well. There's this connector library, and this is also huge. I don't know why, but maybe we can replace that with Soteria and Open.
In my current project, we use a different product from IBM. It's called Keycloak, and we replace the client-side adapters with MicroProfile, JWT, and Soteria.
Yeah, that's also the plan here.
You can do this. So, okay, perfect. So it means you follow the thin war approach. As I interviewed you on my blog, you told me you have 10 wars and none of the wars is bigger than 5 MB, which is fine because now I know why is it that big. Usually my wars are smaller, but your war is that big because of the third-party libraries, which are reasonable. So this is like, there's not like you are gathering common logging and common configuration over the internet. You need to communicate with Watson, and you need the authentication, and this is reasonable, okay? And now you have 10 wars, so I suppose 10 microservices. You know the name of the wars? What I'm curious, the responsibility, so what's the responsibility of the wars? And if you can remember what the names of the wars are.
So yes, of course. So for instance, we have a contract service that is responsible for managing all the master data from our clients and the configuration data. So this is basically our customer on the platform, and the contract service manages all those relationships. And then we also have a incident service, which is responsible for classifying incidents, doing duplication detection, and forwarding the incidents to the call center or the mobile app. So these are two examples. Yeah.
Okay. And the question regarding MQTT, you are not using MQTT directly, right?
So Watson IoT platform is MQTT,
yeah,
and the client library is probably using MQTT as well to receive the messages and transfer it to the Java land.
But you are not using the MQTT libraries directly, so you're just relying on Watson.
Yeah, that's a bundled approach. So you have the Watson service, and then you get the library for it to connect to it. And we use that because the library is professionally maintained, and our colleagues can fix all the bugs in it.
What's also interesting, you told me you're also using the boundary control entity structure with different names. So you are using, I think, API, service, and model, right?
Right.
And what was your experience with that, or did you follow similar patterns in the past, or if not, what you did in the past, and what was the reaction of your team to the pattern?
To be honest, we always had a similar structure to that, because I think it stems from the model controller, view controller pattern as well. So we are used to have 3 different layers. And that's what we always did. And it came natural to my team. And we never considered it to be the BCE pattern. It's just how we do it, right?
Hey, very cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get trouble. So in recent project, it happened this year. I proposed BCE again. And the external provider told me the pattern is crap because the whole team now has to really think about the business logic. And I said, okay, but I mean, the business logic is somehow important, right? It's like, yeah, but back then we had just, DTOs and DAOs, and we can just build this first, and then the business logic came somehow. So they were completely against, and they even mentioned this is not clean code what I am doing, and this is crazy, the, naming packages after domain responsibilities. So, and then I am a little bit, cautious, at least in external projects. But if you did always the same, so this is just even better, because I think this is the only reasonable way actually to structure applications, to focus on concepts. And if the concept changes, you will have to refactor the application, which is a very good thing, I would say. I think which will be really bad, that your concepts and domain logic changes and you don't have to refactor the application, because then something is wrong and it is hard to maintain, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Right.
Okay. And about your team. So you mentioned your team is great. You also said talented developers is fun to work with your team. How big is your team?
This differs on how we count.
The people who developed the 10 wars.
Yeah, those are 5 people, 5 to 8 people. And they are quite young as well. I didn't choose them to be young intentionally, but it just happened that way.
Okay.
So whenever we look for a new developer, mostly young guys apply. And they are also diverse. So we have girls, we have boys, we have people from different nationalities and cultural backgrounds, and it's fun to work with them. And I enjoy also to have a small team. I know that you consider a team of 5 or 8 people already to be large, but in my IBM world, a large team is like hundreds of people, and a small team with 5 or 8 persons is really more efficient than a large team, I think.
Yeah, of course. I mean, 5 to 8 people for 10 wars and application that big is absolutely okay. Mm-hmm. So what I see, that 8 people are working on a single war. This is what I don't understand. So it's like, okay, what you are doing. But you could split, the developers across responsibilities, and then you will get probably per war, which could be considered as a standalone application, 1 to 2 developers, and this is fine.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And about girls at IBM, so what my impression is, there are lots of girls hacking IBM, and they are really happy, or not only happy, they are extremely smart. So I interviewed Emily and what was the other girl from IBM? Erin Schnabel, exactly. And I mean, you have to really prepare which question you're asking, because they are really smart. It's like, and I had the impression not only at IBM, back then at Sun, I told the story already, but I had some suggestions how EGB spec could be improved, right? And there was, back then was, I think the name of the girl was Marina Vatkina, and they told me, okay, if you do this, you will break this and this and this, and this don't work. Any questions? I was like, okay, sorry. The next time I will prepare better. So this was like, like a walking specification guru. So this was it's always fun to see that. And what's also surprised me, you said you have young developers, and but they are using Java EE. What I hear a lot is like Java EE is no more fun. We would like to do something else. So what is the feedback from your developers about what you did with Java EE? So
I think they love it. I don't know if they would tell me otherwise.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking. I think they love it. And I had a couple of guys who came from a JavaScript background, mm-hmm. and they transitioned to Java EE. Mm-hmm. And they told me, hey, this is so great. Everything just works as expected. There's specification. You can rely on it. The problems we have are already solved in some kind of way. We don't need to do anything from scratch. We don't have to pull in 1,000 libraries from people who we don't know. And I think my team really likes Java. And it's also, of course, the environment and the tooling that we use, right? So you have a debugger, you have a profiler, you have your IDE, you have all this great documentation and the application server. I think it's just a good environment to work in, and focus more on what you are trying to build and less on how you are building it.
Yeah, this is actually cool, but this is what I also experience, and from my perspective, there are two kinds of developers: developers who like to focus on the thing they are building, business logic, and they love Java EE. But the problem is the Java EE and whatever we are doing. This is actually in background. This is like if we do something on the server, we rely that the Linux is there, and no one is excited about Linux anymore. And the same is true in this project. We just use Java EE without thinking about that because there is actually no Java EE in our minds. We just focus on business logic. And the problem with that is this is boring for many developers because there is no investigation, there are no task forces, there is no exciting developer stuff. You just focus on boring business logic, and the other developers, they just like to investigate. In one project they created server from scratch and they say we use best of breed technologies. It's like, okay, whether I use Jersey or REST Easy or whatever CXF, I really don't care. I would like just send a JAX-RS, something via JAX-RS. And in another project, they encapsulated, no kidding. This is recently, this year. They attempted to encapsulate JAX-RS with CDI events, but these were not CDI events. It was a homegrown framework. And they told me this is easier to understand for developers because JAX-RS in one day could disappear and and the CDI stuff, which was not CDI, this could this will just persist because they did it. And I say, okay, but what I should do to send a single put or get message? And I say, okay, this is not very easy. So you just have to wrap JAX-RS to our messaging platform, and then you have to implement two events, request and a response event, then cast everything 3 times, and then you are done. I was like, okay, but sorry, I don't get it, and you can do that, but I don't know why. So and it died, of course, but they were very convincing to everyone. So everyone wanted to use the thing, and this would be just terrible. So I'm really glad that there are still young developers which just love if something is working. They say, okay, I just use JAX-RS without thinking about this, and this is, I think, almost the future.
Yeah, but sometimes, Adam, you have to tease Java a bit to them. Because what I also observe is that a lot of young developers come from a background of Python because I think it's popular in university and especially data scientists love it. And they are hesitant to adopt Java because they heard all those horror stories that you need to write so much boilerplate code to get anywhere, and you have all these gazillion classes, and then you need a compiler, etc. And I think if you show them, okay, this is JAX-RS, this is an EJB, here is your JPA layer, and bam, this is a REST and database and your business logic done. By the way, concurrently and transaction safe, they start to understand the point. And at weekend, I'm also again at the Hack Zurich event, which is Europe's largest hackathon.
Okay.
And I'm a coach there for IBM. And each year, I'm doing this the 3rd or 4th time now, I'm looking for teams that do their prototype in Java EE. But so far, I haven't found one. And I'm really hoping that this week there is a Java team. And if there is one, come to me. I will help you as much as I can. And I think we will win the contest.
What we should do next year, we should announce it upfront and see whether developers will find something. We find Java EE team, and they should crush everything, right?
Right. They should be faster than everyone else.
So we should do this next year. This is this year is, I think, over, but next year remind me this, and we should do some campaign to at least find a Java EE team which does something.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So make Java more appealing. This is somehow true. Python, yeah, but Python is also a little bit crazy with the formatting, so you really have to like it. But yeah.
The white spaces.
Yeah. What surprised me is, for instance, the more you wait, the more JavaScript becomes like Java. And so for me, right now in JavaScript land, I almost feel like to JDK 1.0 time. So I there's no lot of difference.
Yeah.
This is also surprising, and everyone likes that.
Yeah,
Okay.
ES6 starts to look a lot like Java.
Mm-hmm.
And what I also think is that the browser starts to look more and more like an application server.
Yeah.
It's crazy what the APIs have.
Yeah.
I just recently discovered that there's text to speech and speech to text in the browser, and I've never thought about that this would be in there.
Mm-hmm.
And all the other different libraries that you have. So there's just the code that you regularly need for your application ready to go, which is basically the idea of the application server.
At least one Chrome tab is about 5 times larger than one single OpenLiberty instance. So this is crazy. So if you open the browser, you consume more memory than average application server does.
Yeah.
So what happens to me this year, because you said the horror stories, a client asked me to review 3 microservices. So 3 microservices in my world would mean 3 wars. And there were 3 wars. Now the question to you, how many jars, modules were inside the 3 wars?
16.
So I guess, the total amount of time around 5 days with documentation, everything, and meeting and traveling. And I found 120 jars inside the 3 wars.
Okay.
And it took me, I apologized, 3 weeks to look through the code. And of course, most of the code was empty indirections and some crazy patterns and version names in the packages and everything doubled and twice. And why I got the assignment, because it took longer and longer to introduce new business logic. And the client asked me, Java is just is not that productive, and they look at something else. It's like, okay, if you would introduce 120 ES6 modules in JavaScript to have a button on screen, you will be even slower. I mean, this really depends what you are doing, right? So, and this is what I'm a little bit afraid. I don't know why. There are lots of crazy architects out there, and they damage the whole developer experience, because if someone forces you to build 20 layers to access a single table, then you cannot be productive.
Yeah, that's right. I'm surprised that there was no ear in the context.
No, they were already on wars level. They were modern. They wanted also to introduce reactive programming to mitigate the situation, but it's okay.
This would be faster with reactive. Okay.
I would say no. Additional 20 jars won't make difference in this project, But so, what interests me about your project right now? You have the cloud, and you probably is somehow Docker based, right?
Yeah, at the moment we are using cloudfoundry, which I think internally is using Docker. But we are transitioning to Kubernetes, because on the IBM Cloud you can get a managed Kubernetes cluster.
Cool.
And then, of course, you have containers, and that's our stack. Yeah,
because you shipped the base image with OpenLiberty to the cloud, and then daily you just ship the WAR, right? Right.
Yeah. So this is the Finvar approach. The base layers are already in the registry, and we only need to update the uppermost level, which is only the var.
Because why I'm asking, you told me that you have about 10K deployments, 10,000 deployments you had.
We are deploying like crazy.
This is very good. I mean, because it's also what I believe in, that we should leverage the platform, as much as possible, and do as little as possible in your local machine, to be sure that it actually works. So how fast is the deployment?
A couple of seconds, maybe. It's really fast. And the way why we do this is we have a development stage, and most of the deployments go to the development stage, of course. And we then automatically execute a bunch of test cases for each of the services that we have, so we can assure quality. And then the staging to the test and production environments are, of course, less frequent, because we have to be a little bit careful when we introduce new features. We have to prepare our ecosystem for that, our partners, their APIs, etc. And there is a more traditional release cycle. But on the dev stage, each of my developers is probably deploying a couple of times per day. So,
very good. And how it works? So you have local unit tests. So then they are, if they pass, they will push to create the image and push to the Docker registry, right?
Yeah, Right.
And the local Maven build with Docker push, how fast is it?
Couple of seconds again. I think it never takes longer than a minute, I guess. But it also depends on your network connection a little bit, and if you are pulling all the libraries fresh or if you get them from the cache, right? So in Maven you need a lot of stuff to build.
And that push, okay. So
the push is not really the problem.
And you have like a push hook which automatically kicks in Jenkins pipeline or something like this?
Yeah. We use an internal GitHub repository. So IBM has GitHub for GitHub Enterprise. We have our code there, and it's linked to a Jenkins build pipeline. So we can do all the configuration for the stage, and then we can also trigger the test cases as well.
And how fast is the pipeline?
Adam, I don't really know. I would have to ask one of my developers, but it's fast.
Okay, no, and it's like hours or minutes or seconds.
No. This is minutes.
Minutes, yeah. This is also, it's hard to beat
hours.
seconds. Yeah. Okay, cool.
If it was hours, we would have something different, I guess.
No, I mean, I saw it frequently in projects where the night was not long enough, to perform the pipeline.
Yeah, and I think the most time-consuming part is to run the test cases, right?
Yeah, the system test.
Yeah, in most some of them you can't parallelize really well because we try to use data that was created in a step before, etc. And then there's always network latency, and this is what consumes the time. It's not the development, the deployment.
So OpenLiberty. So you are not only, I would say, an expert, but you really like that. So why I know that, during the AirHacks in Munich, if someone had a question about OpenLiberty, you just stepped in and explained everything very well. And you provided the Docker files for OpenLiberty at the Docklands open source project, which I maintain. And they are also used a lot. And I also use them if I use OpenLiberty. And actually, OpenLiberty took off as Glassfish took off several years ago, because it's just like complete different approach to application servers. It is crazy fast, and it is modular, but modular without inconvenience. So how to tell it? So if you have config XML, I think is the name of the XML, and you can say I would like to have Java E8. There is one string, and then it just pulls all the dependencies, and you have Java 8. And then what you can do, and this is the most interesting part, this is actually with what I didn't have on my horizon, is that you can mix MicroProfile with Java 8. So this is this I don't know, I just didn't saw that, and I ignored MicroProfile because who cares about custom Payara micros or what is this, Thorntail or Swarm or Red Hats, JBosses, and Java 8 and 7 are just good enough. But what zum Beispiel, this is for example, yeah, what OpenLiberty or Glassfish at Payara did, they just combined both, and this is just the killer feature. So now you have Java 7 with MicroProfile 1.3. And you have all the goodness from MicroProfile combined with Java 7 without any external dependencies, and on stock application servers with stock licensing and stock support. And this is crazy. So since then, I have to say, I use MicroProfile in all my projects. And the classic one is, of course, Matrix. But small things like, the config properties, the configuration, where you can just, from the deployment configuration, pull the configuration files, or health checks. So these are open APIs. So they are extremely pragmatic, very thin, and very well documented. And I think the trick is to combine MicroProfile with Java E.
Yeah.
You're also doing that, right? So your OpenLiberty uses Java 7 plus MicroProfile stuff.
Yeah. I think of MicroProfile like an incubator for Java EE. And I hope that the features we have in MicroProfile will at some point transition to the Java EE standard, because this might help other people to adopt them as well. But for now, I'm quite happy with the mixture that you just described. And it's just the way we do it. In Liberty, you can just open your server XML, add a line, feature MicroProfile 1.3, for example, and at runtime, OpenLiberty loads these functionalities so you can use them in your application. And we think of it as Java EE is the base layer. And if we need something from MicroProfile, we pull it in.
Yeah.
And this need could be the monitoring, the health check API, the fault tolerance features, configuration, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a little bit afraid with the Jakarta E thing that it would be too bureaucratic and too slow. Yeah. And what I like with the MicroProfile, they already had 4 releases. So I wouldn't have nothing against if MicroProfile would take over the time, that you get more and more standard stuff in MicroProfile. And then if you can iterate faster, no one cares, I would say. What we need is just servers where my clients can buy support for, or which are in the clouds. And whether they run MicroProfile or Java E, I don't care. But what I don't like to have in future, again, like now that I will use MicroProfile plus 50 megs of external dependencies to build a simple applications. This is what should not happen. But it looks better and better, I would say.
Yeah. And I was really excited when IBM open sourced OpenLiberty, because now you can share it with everyone. Nobody needs to worry about licensing. And if you do go to production with your app based on OpenLiberty, you still have the option to buy professional support 24/7 around the clock, around the world. And this is just a bonus, right? But you can start for free and don't have to worry about licensing.
Yeah, but what's really important, then if you start with OpenLiberty, you can then buy support without changing anything, You don't have to download something else. So this is crucial, because what I don't like, that you just have an open source and commercial product. Then you start with the open source product, and to buy support, you have to switch to something else with different libraries, and this is strange. But this approach that you could just buy on top of OpenLiberty support, this is, I think, the professional way to go.
Exactly.
Okay, regarding design, I probably know already the answer, but I assume you don't have interfaces, factories, and something like this, right? Too much?
No. No, these days are over. I think I would introduce them if they really made sense. But if you look at it from a pragmatic perspective, you find less and less occasions where an interface would really make sense. Yeah.
So there are no Impls, unfortunately, in your project.
No.
And what is the feedback from your developers? So they learned at the university probably something else, and now they are forced to work without interfaces and nice patterns. So they just like it, or you have some discussion with them, or what was the...
No, they pretty much share the mindset, and they enjoy that the code is much more readability. The readability of the code is much better. And if we have new developers joining the team, it takes less time for them to understand what the application does, because the code is really aligned with the business problem that we try to solve. And you don't have to understand all these crazy layers and abstractions and things like this before you start actually developing a feature or fixing a bug.
Okay. Last questions regarding AirHacks. So you attended several times, and you were very interactive with the attendees. And what surprised you the most? So you have some, I think all the attendees at AirHacks, they are in relation with Java E. So you had some discussions, and there was not lots of breaks, but at least, there were some informal breaks. So what surprised you the most at the AirHacks?
Well, it's surprising, I don't know, but inspiring, I guess. So I'm a community person, right? And I love to discuss with developers and see how they solve their problems. And what I find exciting is that they all get the idea of we have to write applications with less complexity. We can use the platform as it is. We don't need to introduce libraries and frameworks and abstractions. And what is interesting as well is that the practices that I think we don't need anymore. Everyone agrees. And in the evening, you start to discuss, or during the workshop as well. And people tell you stories about how they used to build applications. And you just think, okay, yes, I have been there as well. I'm glad that these times are over and we do more simple stuff, or more precise stuff, I would say this way.
Recently, there was one attendee, so I have lots of interesting stories. And I don't know whether you attended the AirHack edition, but the attendee told me that he is forced to develop fast applications by law. So I forgot actually what it is, but in the area where he is working with Java EE, they have to deliver all requests within half a second or so. Otherwise, this would be illegal. Wow. And this was a European company. I actually forgot what it was. This surprised me. I didn't knew that such a law exists, right? So this is for me, what's really interesting is from how many sectors. So how much is going on in Java EE? I'm just a single person. I don't see it. But after each, AirHacks edition, I just see this is like, crazy what people are building with Java EE.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what I would like to know, right? How do people can find you? And is it possible to hire you as IBM consulting for Java EE help, or or your team, or how it works?
Well, of course, yeah. So in the order of the questions, how you can find me? You can find me on Twitter. My handle is TNSasse, TNSASSE. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And this is the best way to contact me, both of the channels. Yes, of course, you can hire IBM for Java consulting.
And they will get your team or the interface pattern team?
No, they will get somebody like me.
Okay.
Yeah, and how can you do that? I think people who hire IBM know how to approach us.
Okay.
If you don't have a client rep, please visit ibm.com and check out the channel there. And you can get help with your Java projects, of course. Yeah.
Okay, TNSasse and LinkedIn. And are you talking in upcoming conferences?
No, I talked a lot this year. Not so much on developer conferences, but on industry events.
Okay.
I will be on the JCon, but only as a participant. You can grab a coffee with me if you'd like. Just say hi. And of course, also at Hack Zurich, where I will also introduce the IBM Cloud briefly to the participants. But there's no upcoming talks from me.
Okay. So then, thank you a lot, and let's do an update in 1 year or something.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay, bye.
Bye.